It's really exciting to have FinDEVr in Silicon Valley or Silicon Alley, but I think we've got San Francisco weather for you today, so it should feel a little bit like home. I'm Pamela Rice, and I lead technology at OnDeck, where we build small business financing solutions for small business owners. And I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes talking to you about the small business technology revolution we're leading. I've been in fintech for about 16 years, and I've actually never been as excited as I am today in the environment where we have ever-changing technology that is leading the adoption and innovation of products and services. To put that in context, in the next 5 years, BMW just announced they will have self-driving cars on the road. That's cool in and of itself to have a self-driving BMW, but the effects of that are that, of course, the car accident rate is going to go down, traffic patterns are going to change, and your life on your daily commute will, of course, evolve into something more pleasurable than honking horns and chasing other cars. At the same time, with 3D printing, renal cells are now able to be produced on 3D printers. In the next 5 years, whole kidneys will be produced. What that translates to is longer expansion of human life. People will no longer have to wait on donors to have a new kidney. They will be able to have a kidney implanted that is from a 3D printer. So these kinds of evolving technology impacts translate to fintech as well, across payments, across lending, and across commerce. And some ways that we're experiencing that now are the ubiquitous transformation of mobile payments everywhere. So you can't get into a cab these days without worrying, is your watch paying for your ride, or did you pay with cash? Where did my payment come from? And that kind of adoption is really prevalent, and over the next 5 years, they expect mobile payments to actually double. So we can expect that to become even more fluid, not only in our country, but in some of the developing countries as well. Currency is actually becoming something that you could pay with minutes and not just currencies. So currencies like Bitcoin and M-Pesa are really transcending geographical boundaries and borders. On the commerce side, it's a really interesting thing that we started off in brick and mortar 20 years ago. We rapidly went to e-commerce. That rapidly became remote commerce. And now there's this transcendent back from mobile driving traffic into the stores. So I'll buy on my mobile device, but I want to go in the store to maybe pick another or get another size or adjust my order slightly. So that the thing that's really important in that scenario is that this ability to share data, to have one common source of data that connects the dots for the customer. So when they walk into the store, the experience that they're met with from a service agent is that knowledge of what they've ordered online, what they've ordered on their mobile device, and that experience is tailor-made to fit them. So small business lending has actually not quite kept up with some of the changes. Sorry, this slide didn't come out quite right, but small business lending is evolving, but not at quite the same pace. So small business owners themselves have a slower adoption to newer technologies. Only 20% of small business owners right now accept mobile payments. Only about 60% of them have accounting software that they use regularly. And on the lending side, non-traditional lending, is in its nascent stages. We're about 10 years into this industry right now. So what that translates to is this amazing opportunity to transform small business lending and enable small business owners to really meet their needs financially and to drive so much of this economy, because really small business owners comprise about 50% of the GDP in the U.S., and that roughly equates to large proportions of GDP in other developed countries. So the opportunity, you could understand, is significant. If we can crack the nut in this nascent industry, do it in such a way that would create scale and focus on innovation while technology is rapidly changing, and accelerate and leverage those changes, we have a huge opportunity. And at OnDeck, we started over 8 years ago with really taking this untamed wilderness, if you will, where there really was no single way to understand the creditworthiness of a small business owner. There was no standard APIs to develop to interact with a bank. There are no go-to methods for communication or governance about how we communicate with small business owners with APRs or AIRs. And so this nascent industry is discovering, how do I really understand the creditworthiness of a small business owner? Where do I get my data? How do I get my facts? And we created the first OnDeck Score, which is a proprietary score that tells us the creditworthiness of a customer. We enable that customer to apply for a loan in less than 10 minutes, get approved, and get lending the same day. That's what we did 8 years ago. But when you talk about this and how do you leverage the pace of technology and innovation to really apply that to small business owners, you can't just build it once and expect that that's going to be the solution that's going to create that innovative edge that you're after. So what we're focused on in order to lead this change for small businesses is really focused on scale, on world-class engineering, and a maniacal focus on customer intimacy that will all together drive the opportunity for us to continue to innovate in this space for the long term. And let me talk about that for a little bit. How does scale play into innovation? What's that about? Well, if we have a stack that has all of the services that I need to have a full credit solution for small businesses that can do this real-time underwriting, real-time risk assessment, and deliver a loan product to a small business owner, that's great. And having it always on, always in the cloud, gives me the opportunity to have that experience for the small business owner, whether it's on a desktop, whether it's through a customer sales agent, whether it's through the remote device. But really, when you talk about innovation and scale and how they correspond, if you think about it this way, if I've built my system so that if I want to roll out country number 3 or country number 2, it takes me 1/3 of the time it took me the first time, and it takes me a fraction of the time it took me the second time, I have that engineer power and that capacity to build out other innovative products. When I'm competing with my with other competitors in this space, and they haven't thought about scale in that way, they're still focused on building out country number 3, and it's going to take them a little bit longer because they haven't thought out, I just want to make this a configuration. I don't want to make it code. So we thought about that right from the beginning. We knew we were going to have multiple products. We knew we wanted multiple geographies. We wanted configuration over code so that when we think about what's the driving differentiator between us and our competitors, is the ability to scale so that we can focus on innovation and riding the pace of technology as it changes. But it's not just about our product offerings, both globally and to our products and for our products. It's also about creating that innovation for our partners. And if we've created service-oriented architecture so that we have services that are used both internally and externally and reduce the duplication that we have in systems. What that also translates to is wrapping our entire ecosystem in services so that our partners can offer small business loans to their small business owners, white labeled or co-branded. And that's been a huge differentiator for us as we built out OnDeck as a service, because we've partnered with some pretty large names out there who have trusted us because of our focus on simplicity, scale, and security. So scale is a huge thing when we talk about innovation and driving this revolution for small business owners. But another very important part is really how we deliver a pipeline to create ideas into production. And it can't be this huge monolithic process. It has to be this well-understood process of going from a lightweight idea to a very lightweight MVP product, design thinking strategy, agile design principles, continuous integration, continuous deployment, high engineering standards, so that you go from an idea to something in production in days, not months. And you have that as a continual bar that you keep across your engineering and your product teams. And that's something that we're still focusing on. You're never done with this. It's something that you always want to continue to improve. But that's our standard. That's our litmus test. What's our pipeline like? How long does it take? And what are the friction points so we can reduce that process going forward? The other important element of this is not just the scale and the process, but it's also the teams. And having world-class engineers that are comprised of diverse teams that are really focused on high high engineering standards, always improving their practice, and always focused on collaboration, and having that in a culture that minimizes friction, minimizes politics, and empowers teams is really another enabling factor that we think is the perfect mix, having a focus on scale, the process, and the great engineering teams and a great culture. Because when you think about it, who's going to really be able to innovate better? Is it going to be a company that hires any engineers, puts them in an environment where that's you got a lot of politics, or one that really focuses on minimizing all that friction so you can focus on great products and innovating? And I would say it's a no-brainer. It's going to be the latter that can actually succeed in that space. So we've got a lot of things going on, and we want to focus on scale, great engineering practices, but one of the most important things in all of this has been our customer. And when we think about our product and our platform, we thought about it in such a way that we can create the system to have one central source of data so that we can connect the dots for our customers and make it a streamlined, intelligent experience for them, because they're actually taking a loan from us. And that loan it's an emotional decision. They're not just taking a $5 or $10 loan. They're taking a $100,000 loan. And that, in and of itself, needs trust. It needs the reliance that you know what you're talking about, and that if they call you on day one, and then they call you on day 5, that you knew that conversation took place, that you can connect the dots for them. It also means that we want to connect the experiences, that our platform should be able to say that, should be able for a customer to start online or start with a sales agent, an application, have that application pick up whenever they want and wherever they want on their mobile device, as an example, and for them to pick and choose when they want to continue that experience and pick it up right where they left off, and have that experience transcend any devices and let it be an omni-channel experience for them. So we are leading the way in small business lending and taking the helm at really looking at how we can innovate for the future. One of the decisions we made in 2014 was to go public. And that's been a huge differentiator in and of itself, because the security and compliance standards that we are applying, that apply to all public companies, has really been a bar raiser for us. And that also, what we found is something that relieves the pressure, because when we've focused on security and compliance right from the get-go, that means we don't have as much worry that you always worry about hackers. Nobody should never not worry about that. But at least the bar is lowered a little bit. At least we know we've got sensors in place. At least we know we've got people looking, and that security footprint is a thing that all companies should worry about. So I don't think we're alone there. But I think the interesting thing about where we are is that we're actually creating this scale. We're creating this innovation pipeline because we know that in the next couple of years, it may be possible for a small business owner to walk into a store, to apply on their mobile device for a loan for $100,000, to instantly get funded and to purchase right there at point of sale. They may have an experience much like consumer lending. But in 10 years, what might that look like? Well, I'll tell you, banks today are thinking about open standards so that they can share data. With 3D printing, the forecasts are that we are going to have the ability to create much of the things that we create remotely today. We'll create it locally. And with the opportunity for us to have data that's shared across both lending institutions, and have all of the manufacturing and inventories known by a merchant, a small business owner, it's not unreasonable to think that you could have intelligent awareness about when you need a loan, instant access to that loan, and a much lower default rate because you have a lot more data to work with that's instantly accessible from that small business owner. So I leave this off with a little bit of a trailbreaker just to get you thinking. But I think the important point about all of this, if you take one point away, is that small business lending, it's not an overnight thing. You don't do it, you don't wake up one day and say, I want to just create small business loans, and you go out and create a platform. It takes years. We've been at this for a while. But we don't just build a platform to build one product or one country. You build it for scale if you're really focused on innovation and driving that innovation. And that's exactly where we are. So thank you. And I don't know if we have 1 minute for questions if you have any. I'm going to take that as a no. All right. Well, thank you very much. And have fun at FinDEVr.